AEW unveiled its new ranking system, and I'm not saying this to be an AEW hater or anything. Okay, I kinda am, but believe me when I say these rankings suck. They're a complete disaster. Last time AEW tried these rankings, they became so convoluted that they had to scrap them all together. With the return of the AEW rankings, these numbers were every bit as convoluted before a single match was even announced. In a recent video, I came on this app and discussed my own fears of the AEW rankings being scrapped all over again. Now that I've seen them rolled out, I'll give it a year before we stop hearing about these silly numbers. I've studied the AEW ranking system over the past few days, which really didn't take very long because they seem to have been written on the back of a napkin. Once again, no win-loss records or pro wrestling rankings have ever worked in the business, and this time won't be the exception, because here are some of the biggest problems with AEW's new rankings. The only saving grace for these rankings is that they had a real chance to add value to each individual championship, most of which came off as meaningless because of how many there were. Instead, they'll tell you who the champions are, but then they'll just rank the top 5 contenders with no rhyme or reason. It isn't like the UFC, which ranks different title contenders for every division. It's just, I don't know a better way to say this, but it's just AEW niggas ranked. If Tony Khan had more melanin in him, that's really what they should have called it. The AEW rankings look like a high school project that Tony Khan waited until the last minute to complete, so he just threw something together and hoped to get a passing grade. He didn't. He failed. And I get it. The pro wrestling culture wars have been politicized, so everybody's gonna be shoehorned into a camp of pro AEW and anti AEW. But both sides hate these rankings. My guys over at CagesideSeats.com have an article up right now called AEW Rankings Are a Mess. But even on the other side, AEW press secretaries Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez couldn't even try to defend these hideous hierarchies. In fact, once they were done with this segment, their YouTube video was entitled, "Let's Never Talk About the AEW Rankings Again." Tony, these are your manses, and even they are shitting on your feeble attempt to recreate the college football playoff rankings. This is like if the NFL released its playoff rankings, and CBS Sports were like, "Let's just never talk about these seedings again." AEW is down bad, and these rankings are just making it worse. There's so little information given, which leads to so many questions. Let's take a look at the men's rankings, for example. After telling you who all the singles champions are, Joe, Christian, Orange, and Eddie, AEW goes on to list the contenders: Swerve, Hangman, Copeland, Moxley, and Roderick Strong. Okay, so these are the top contenders for the titles of their choosing? If one contender challenges for one title, does the other contender move up to number 1 for another title? Are these based on win-loss records? Because Hangman and Edge have lost a couple of big matches of late. Where's Bryan Danielson? Where's Wardlow, who hasn't lost since he came back and may be currently injured, but that's another story for another day. Where's Hook? Didn't Tony Khan just make a big deal on Twitter about Hook's win-loss record compared to Jinder Mahal? And now just after Hook's second loss, Hook is out of any title picture? It seems to me that if there is a tag team title contender, it eliminates them from also being a singles contender. Why? What kind of nonsense is that? Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, and Darby Allin can challenge for tag team titles, but none of the singles titles? Where's Jungle Boy Jack Perry? No, not in the ranking system, forget about that, but just generally in AEW. You're really gonna banish one of your pillars to New Japan Pro Wrestling after a scuffle with CM Punk? Punk has already moved on to WWE and won't even be on TV moving forward due to injury. That saga is over, and by the time Perry comes back, everybody will have moved on from his role in the Brawl In, and he'll be ice cold. As was pointed out by Cage Side Seats, these rankings completely undermine the value of an open challenge, because these open challenges suggest that anybody can get it. Well, now that you have rankings, people are gonna have to wait their turn to get it, right? Over in the women's division, Deonna Purrazzo is the number 1 contender. All right, but didn't she just get here? Whom did she beat? She's #1 contender not for win-loss reasons, but because AEW's storyline dictates that she's gonna have a match with Toni Storm. Well, then shouldn't she take the Rocky approach and have the newcomer win her way to the top? And what the hell is Mariah May doing here? Didn't she just get here? Isn't she 1-3? This feels like if Long Beach State was ranked #4 in March Madness. Where's Britt Baker? No, again, not in the rankings, but just generally in AEW. She's literally one of AEW's biggest stars, and she didn't even get to speak a word of English on Dynamite all of last year. What's happening? You can go on and on, like with the meaningless trios division, where God knows how they came up with these rankings. At least 2 of the 3 members of House of Black is counting down the days until their contracts are up, and they're just chilling at #5, probably because AEW needed another 3 warm bodies to fill up these rankings. AEW needs to rethink how they're going about these rankings real quick, or they won't make any sense and they'll disappear just as fast as they came. Hopefully AEW Collision and AEW Rampage can now have some more value, because now, theoretically, all these matches should mean something. Unfortunately, there are just so many AEW stars with so much potential who may never get enough TV time with these rankings, like Will Hobbs, Takeshita, Commander, Penta El Zero Miedo, Ray Fenix, Willow Nightingale, and Nyla Rose, and that's just a short list. If I asked Tony Khan to provide me with an explanation of these rankings, I guarantee you he'd just give me the back of that napkin that he wrote them on. I know Tony Khan may not have the same relationship with Dana White that he once did, because White's now working with WWE and TKO. But the man could have at least tried a phone call to ask how he goes about his rankings, because UFC rankings are convoluted and all, don't get me wrong. But compared to AEW's recent rollouts, UFC's rankings feel like the ATP Tennis Tour rankings, because the Tennis Tour gets it right. Check out this video of Tony Khan's AEW problems and subscribe. Whom would you like to see in the AEW rankings? Is this thing over before it even started? Tell me in the comments!